We're going to talk a little bit about the cultural proficiency conceptual framework now. The reason why this is important is because this really is going to give the structure for the work that we're going to do in the district that's related to cultural proficiency. So I am going to put this in present mode so we can get a nice big picture to go along with our commentary here. When you take a look at the conceptual framework, it's a pretty big, complicated chart. If you look at it, you want to work kind of from the bottom to the top. On the bottom, you'll see the barriers to cultural proficiency on the left, and those feed the unhealthy practices in the middle box, which contains the continuum of cultural proficiency. On the right side, you have the guiding principles of cultural proficiency on the bottom, and those feed the healthy practices on the continuum. If we can stay on that right side and practice those healthy, positive principles, then what we're going to wind up doing is embodying those five essential elements of cultural competence. What we're going to do when we start talking about this chart is we're going to look at that middle band, the continuum of cultural proficiency. Here it is blown up and color coded. You can see that the unhealthy practices are on the left side of the chart and the healthy practices are on the right side of the chart. On the negative side, you've got cultural destructiveness, incapacity, and blindness with descriptions written underneath them all. Really, if it's compliance-based tolerance for diversity that we aspire to, we're going to wind up on that unhealthy side. And what that means is that you have to tolerate other people because we said so. If that's the mindset that we have, is simply tolerance, then we're not going to be the district that we want to be. On the healthy side is transformation for equity, and you can reach that through cultural pre-competence, cultural competence, and cultural proficiency. When our actions fall under those categories, we are on our way to a transformation for equity, and we're doing the healthy practices that are going to embody the five essential elements of cultural proficiency. That is going to lead us to the barriers to cultural proficiency. Remember, these are on the bottom of the chart, as well as the guiding principles of cultural proficiency. The barriers, the first one is being resistant to change. Change is one of those things that's always occurring around us and always happening in the world. So if we're resistant to change, we're going to be at conflict with the world that is around us. We need to be aware of the change and then be ready to adapt to that change. And that's the second bullet. Adapting to change is going to help us be able to serve the needs of the changing demographics of students that come before us and to meet their needs so we can live up to that promise of providing a great educational experience for all of our students, not just almost all of them. Also, the third bullet talks about not acknowledging a system of oppression. And so when we recognize parts of our system that aren't serving others, that is a portion of our system that is oppressing them. And so what we want to do is be able to make adjustments and changes to our system so that our system no longer oppresses people, but lifts all of us up. Because when all of us are lifted up, we all benefit from that. And finally, recognize that there are folks that benefit from this sense of privilege and in entitlement. Certainly when there's privilege in my own life, I know that it blinds me a lot of times to the needs of others that are around me. And so if we can at least become conscious and aware of the privilege that exists in our life, it might help us to be able to see and recognize the needs of others that are around us and also help eliminate that system of oppression that might be causing the inequities that can exist within the district. When you look at the guiding principles of cultural proficiency, there are a number of them there. Culture is a predominant force in society, recognizing that culture plays a major role in everybody's life. And also, people are served by varying degrees by the dominant culture. There are some folks that benefit a lot from the dominant culture, and there are other folks that really don't. People also have individual and group identities. Just because a person is a member of a certain culture, not everybody is going to be the exact same, right? We all have our own individual identity as well as an identity that can make us part of a group. Also, diversity within cultures is vast. Not everybody is the exact same from a culture, and we need to recognize that diversity that exists within cultures. Also, that each culture has its own unique needs. We need to recognize that different cultures have different needs and do our best to serve each of those different cultures. Also, that the best of both worlds is going to enhance the capacity of all. Um, Doing the work of equity is not a deficit creating job. That if we're providing an equitable experience for our students in our schools, everybody is going to benefit from that, not just the marginalized populations. And then finally, um, our family is the primary system of support in each culture. Our marginalized populations have to be at least bicultural, and we must be equipped to respond to that, right? That they're going to need to figure out a way to interact with multiple cultures and not just a single one. And then finally, our cross cultural interactions have dynamics that must be acknowledged, adjusted to, and accepted. The work can get complicated at times, and we need to acknowledge that, accept it, and then be ready for it. Finally, if we can land on that positive side of the continuum of cultural proficiency, then we're going to start to embody these five essential elements of cultural competence. First one is assessing cultural knowledge. We have that as a district goal to keep that as an ongoing process throughout the year and years. Also, we want to value diversity, make sure that everybody's culture is appreciated and valued in our district. We want to be able to manage the dynamics of difference. So when there's some conflict or incidents that might occur, we want to make sure that we're managing those in the healthiest way possible. Also, we want to make sure that we continue to adapt to the diversity that comes to us every day in our schools. And then finally, institutionalize the cultural knowledge that we have, meaning that we build an institution where we first are thinking of valuing all the cultures that come our way and also making sure that we have access to all.